overtones, voicing, anything to change the sound of the note without moving your fingers. That's what we're going to talk about today, and we're actually going to talk about one of my favorite books that I believe is the best beginner book to learn about the skill of voicing and the skill of doing overtones. So first, let's talk about the most common, well-known books out there for voicing. And the number one most popular book is probably this Top Tones for Saxophone by Sigurd Rascher. Sigurd Rascher is a classical saxophonist based out of Europe, I believe Germany, and he kind of wrote this book, which has become somewhat the quintessential book for voicings and overtones so that you can learn how to play in the upper register, in the altissimo register. And Eugene Rousseau wrote another book as well called High Tones for Saxophone, another classical saxophonist on how to build up that skill of getting into the higher register. And then you have other books that have the studies of high harmonics, which is a newer book by Ted Nash that I just got this week, so I don't have any say about this. We'll have to check it out, and I'll give you my thoughts on it on a future video. So be sure to check out for that. And then we also have Robert A. Lucky's book on Saxophone Altissimo. And also, Ben Wendell actually recently released a Altissimo book as well, which I will have to check out and give you my thoughts on it as well. But all these books, I feel like, are pretty good for intermediate to advanced level musicians on building up the skill of voicings and altissimo. And I don't feel like they lay a solid foundation on how to incrementally build up each overtone scale. The book that I feel like is the book for beginners is this book right here by Donald Sinta, which is a book called Voicing. We're going to dig into why you should learn voicings, why voicings are important, and also how voicings are more than just about reaching the upper register of the horn. But we're going to dig into this book here, and I'm going to explain to you why I believe that this is the best book for beginners and maybe some intermediate students who have kind of started dipping their toe into overtones and altissimo, but want to kind of build a more solid foundation to work off of. If you're interested in learning more about how to build up your skill on the saxophone and build up your skill as a musician and overall musicianship, and also just see my journey of what I'm learning and how I'm going to share it with y'all, click that subscribe button below, because there's going to be more videos coming out for you to check out and for you to learn how to improve your skill on this great instrument. First, who is Don Sinta, or Donald Sinta? He is a classical saxophonist who was the saxophone professor at the University of Michigan for many years. Let's listen to a clip right here to hear his unbelievably beautiful sound and tone and his great ability to play in the altissimo register. That is Don Sinta, and he's the one who wrote this book, Voicing for the Saxophone. Voicing, an approach to the saxophone's third register, which is the altissimo register. And the reason why I like this book so much, like I said earlier, is that it sets up a solid foundation on what is voicing and how do you build up that skill over time. So voicing basically is, in its most easy concept, is the position of your tongue, how the shape of your throat is, and your oral cavity, and how you can shape the way the saxophone or the mouthpiece and the ligature are affected. Usually, altissimo is one of the biggest reasons why people learn voicings, because you want to be able to get to that upper register pretty easily, right? You don't want to just honk it out, and you don't want to get that. One of the reasons why you want to learn voicings is that so you have more control of that upper register of altissimo. And that is the first point that John Sinta brings up in this book. Is altissimo is one of the things to learn as a current contemporary saxophonist. So you want to be able to get up there and make those notes sing. That's what you're looking for. More control versus just, hear how do you get up to that upper register? How do you get up to that upper register with as much ease as possible? And overtones is definitely a skill to dig into that. But Don Sinta actually makes another great point, which I don't think a lot of saxophonists talk about, why voicing is so important. And I want to quote him here because I think this is one of the aspects of voicing and voicings in general that people miss out on. So first he gives a definition of what voicing is. Voicing refers to an awareness and control of the muscles and soft flexible tissue in the oral cavity and vocal tract. But here we go. Playing the saxophone requires change in the configuration of our mouth, tongue, and throat, which contributes directly to control over range, intonation, and dynamics. But here's my favorite part. Further, our personalized timbres are greatly influenced by how we manipulate this track to resonate each note. Here's another quote about why voicing is important. And I know I'm kind of hammering this point of just like, it's more than just altissimo. It is more than just trying to get those high notes and without squeaking them. It is right here. The skills acquired through the study of voicing will undoubtedly aid the saxophonist in improving tone quality, intonation, and overall control of the instrument. The oral cavity is a significant timbre influence and pitch control mechanism, as well as a variable in resource exploration. Insights into its manipulation and control provides a passageway to individual exploration and discovery. That is what I feel like what I'm trying to bring up with this channel and this idea is like the inner discovery of finding your own sound, your own musicianship. And Donald Sinta brings it up right here. Voicing is more than just being able to get those high notes. Right? That is why a lot of times people want to learn voicings. But also think about what is the sound, the timbre, the tone, the intonation, all of that. That is all together. That, for me, I was varying the height of my tongue. That last one didn't sound as great, but I was just trying to over-exaggerate the tightness of the sound, the vocal tract of how your oral cavity will affect how your sound is. And so this is the building blocks for your tone, your intonation, your tuning, your timbre, all the above, and also including being able to get up to the altissimo. So why do I like this book so much? Is he brings up this point of this is a wonderful way of exploration in this daily study. But like I said earlier, why is this the best book for beginners? Is because it starts out with the slow building blocks of being able to get that overtone sound. So we start out here with a good warning, a good note. You only want to practice this a maximum of 20 minutes. Sinta says it right here, maximum benefits, improvement in skill resorts from short daily practice. This is a daily routine. This is something you do every day that you build up little by little. Like, you can't do this 4 hours in one day and then hope the next day it'll be there. If anything, you will injure yourself. So be mindful. Many of the procedures require unusual manipulation of the oral cavity mechanism. Long sessions, over 20 minutes, should be avoided, and as they may result in discomfort or injury. So please be mindful when practicing this technique. A little goes a long way. I promise you, if you do 5 to 10 minutes every single day, you will see more outcomes than trying to do 20 to 30 minutes every single day. Little by little goes a long way. Patience is the game here. Patience is key. So he has a chart. He gives a chart of the overtone series, which you have the fundamental note, which is the bottom note that you get. And then you have the first mode. Then the second mode. Third, the fourth, and then the fifth, sixth, and then seventh, and etc. and so on and so forth. I don't know if you need to go more than that, altissimo octave. You can go a little more, but it starts to get a little high, especially for beginners. Now, here is the differentiator between other books and this book. Let's go to the most common book on voicings, Sigur Rás's Top Tones, which is a great one, and I will be making a video on this a little bit later. But let's take a look at, you have some long tone exercises, and then you have some octave exercises, and then he gives you the overtone series as well. And immediately you're immediately jumping into, let's see, right here. You're immediately jumping into the hops and skips and jumps without knowing how to do that. What do? That is really difficult for a beginner to know, like, what does it mean to change my voice? What does it mean to change my oral cavity? What does that mean? Well, Don Sinta, preliminary exercises. The preliminary exercises is basically how you're just finding out how to manipulate your oral cavity. And literally, one of the exercises is to whistle a tune, humming, or singing. He's trying to get you to see what it's like to affect your oral cavity by moving your tongue in your throat. Not even, the first exercise is not even on your instrument. Now, there is a mouthpiece exercise he has in here, which is not written out, but he just tries to put the mouthpiece in, and then how do the notes change? Do they go up? Do I go down? Like, you're trying to see what it's like to manipulate something without using your fingers. That is the introductory of this book. What does it mean to affect your oral cavity? So that is great right there. First thing in itself, what does that feel like? Then, once you know how that feels like, he actually has something that I talked about in the video about how to do the Johnny Hodges gliss, which if you want to check out that video will be posted as a card up here or linked down below. And he actually talks about the front F trick, which is basically what you do is you finger the front F and then you just slide down. And you do this slowly. He is really big on moving slow and kind of building it up. Now, if you've already built up some sort of basic understanding, he tells you in the book, move to this page and start doing some of these exercises. But if you're just starting out, just see what it's like to just bend a note from the high F. Oops, my mouthpiece is all messed up since I took it off. So you do the half step. Then you do hold on, not a quarter step. You do a half step and then a whole step. And then what you can do is do some pitch matching. So you have the half step, and so on and so forth. He's literally just slowly stacking up the skill of how do you affect this oral cavity. That's why I love this book. It's very patient. You have to be patient. It is not something that you will get in 1 day, 2 days a week. It is going to be weeks and months of just slow, deliberate practice. And as the days go on, the skills will stack up and you might be able to progress a little quicker, but you want to start out slow. And then after you do all that, after you do the kind of the humming, the preliminary exercise, the front F trick, now you're getting into the first mode. But what he does differently than some of the other books is he doesn't even try to get you to do the first mode based on the low spatula keys. You're doing the modes starting in the mid-range of the horn because it's a lot easier to kind of manipulate those notes and do that. So he just kind of has you doing an octave in the mid-range, and then there's these exercises that slowly build on from the previous exercises to the next. It is just a slow accumulation of build-up. And then he has you going up and down and all around. I don't want to show off too many pages of the book because I don't want to, deal with copyright issues, but I just want to share my thoughts on this book. So what I love about this book is that we get almost 17 pages before you actually start doing like the overtone exercises on the spatula keys. And it starts out with a pitch matching exercise. And so this is a great foundation to kind of build up that skill of overtones. And then you'll know what that feels like moving to some of maybe these other more advanced books or further into this book. This book actually goes really far and to the almost a full range of the modes. I want to give one example of just how he shows of building up this skill of voicing. And it's just, here it is, this one simple page here, and it's just how do you get the octave above in the mid-range without using the octave key, right? So you have the F, so he has you just slowly just build up this skill from an easier part of the horn to a more difficult part of the horn, just so that you know what it's like to manipulate that area. This is what I love so much about this book. And like I said a little earlier, I don't want to show too many snippets from this book, but I will have a link down below to this book, to an Amazon location. This book it says currently unavailable. Hopefully when you check it or someone checks it in the future that the book will be available, because I really do find it to be a great resource for the beginning start of building up that skill of voicing. If the book is also continue out of print, there is eBay, but I saw one day someone was trying to sell this book for $300, which I think is ridiculous. And if voicing and those kind of things are something you're looking to build up that skill of, how do you start with that foundation? Let me know down below. If you're this far into the video, this is something you're most likely interested in. I could create some sort of videos on some rudimentary or early beginner voicings, and I can create some content around that if that is something you are looking for. But I want to say thank you so much for watching this video. This is my review, my belief of the best book for beginners on voicings, and maybe not even just beginners. Like, even if you're intermediate or advanced, there's nothing wrong with going back to the basics. The professionals still do long tones to this day, and so there is nothing wrong with going back and seeing how you can build up these skills and refine and see what areas you can improve upon. And so I would love for you to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button because I will be putting out a lot more content as well on the saxophone and building up saxophone skills, on how I know how to do it as I am still learning how to do it, and my reviews of some books out there that I have learned from, and different things like that. But that is the end of this video. As I brought up earlier in this video, I talk about how to do Johnny Hodges' gliss, and you should really check out that video if that's a skill you're looking to do. That'll be right here. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much for watching.